guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Sorry, but your dog now lost all its reasons to attack me. Better mind your moves now. So, I'm not feeling too good right now. I have a painful rash out of the blue, and although I can still do things, I more than often feel like crap. Getting better though. So when I got home last Wednesday and with a date with my girlfriend upcoming Friday, she insisted to come despite me not feeling well. I figured I'd survive Thursdays and do my shopping with GF in tow. We get to the supermarket and of course get confronted with all sorts of nonsense. I'm pushing the cart while being right next to a stand, and sure enough, a woman almost walks into my cart because she tried to overtake someone walking slower with a basket, giving me dirty looks, as if I care. We need to get some milk, but of course, that aisle is now the local social aisle where 4 people crowded together to talk about stuff and leaving no room for anyone else. We'll go around it, my GF wanted to ask, but I had a severe headache and didn't want to bother with possible crap coming from it. When you walk up to someone and they obviously ignore you and don't go out of the way? Then we get to the frozen aisles and sure enough the crap show continues. Now we had to deal with a woman who left her dog lying down across the whole aisle, taking up all the free space. A pit bull or Doberman no less. One of those breeds with a bad reputation. GF. Sorry, but could you make some room for us to pass? To which the lady waved her hand. Just go around it, in Dutch by the way, and she completely ignores us. And suddenly I reached my boiling point. I have just had it with all this crap up to now. So I stop my girlfriend and approach the dog, without the cart. Thing about me. I love dogs. Totally adore them. I don't have the time nor drive to look after one of my own, but I do volunteer quite often for the animal shelter, because, and I have my way with dogs. Those are not my words, but what others say about me. I'm hardly an expert, but when dealing with dogs I believe that you need to understand the very basic rules of dominance. And nature. That dog lying in a random alley? He's just as uncomfortable as I am, especially with a crappy excuse for a boss like that. B equals assumption on my end, careful there. So I walk right up to the dog. My GF tried to stop me, she doesn't like dogs at all, but I just had about reached my limit. I go towards the dog, carefully keeping my eyes peeled for body signs. EY there. I tell him while making eye contact and extending my hand so that he can sniff it, very important for a dog, getting your scent. He actually licks it. Later on my GF told me that she was freaking out at this point. I love her so much and her patience with me. Feeling quite confident now, I tell the dog. I always talk to dogs. Watch me not care at all what others might think of this. EY there buddy. Can you move out of the way please? Very important detail to me. And I gently push its behinds. Sure enough, he gets the gesture, stands up and moves. Thanks buddy. I tell him and push the cart past him, at which time the lady noticed what was going on. EY, don't touch my dog, she yells. Well, you told me to go around him, that's what I did, I tell her. She did not like that and got right into my face about blah, blah, blah. At this point I paid more attention to the dog than her. And that ticked her off even more, and then it happened. The dog suddenly started to growl and it exposed its teeth. Not against me though, no, at her. Down boy, and I gently put my hand on the dog's head. It popped out before I realized it, and while I was bending my knees I knew I made a bad judgment call. Sorta, I still had my GF to back me up. As I expected, the dog sat down. Feel free to call me crazy, but I truly believe that dogs can read humans as well. And I believe that it knew exactly what was happening and that his mistress was in the wrong. I believe that dogs are a lot smarter than most people give them credit for. I don't think around dogs, I go with my impressions and feelings. But as I also feared, that lady was now pissed, visibly appalled by the fact that her precious attack dog would favor a low-life stranger like me. But before she could say anything, my GF decided to do her thing to try and stop things from escalating. She walked up towards me, physically somewhat shoving the lady out of the way, and told me, Genoeg geluter, tide om af te rekenen. Translation. Enough chattering, time to check out, and we left and headed for the tills. Much to my surprise, without any further arguments. And that's it. I can't help but worry what is going to become of that dog though. The next story is entitled Man Attacks Then Blames Me for Long Wait Time. So, 2 weeks ago, I was admitted to the ER after having a stroke and finally discharged last Friday, only for my clumsy weeble wobble ass to trip on a rug in the lobby on my way out after being discharged, falling directly on my face and banging up my knee pretty good. What luck, am I right? So now I'm back to using a walker since my leg is still hurting and I can't fully straighten it. Next day, my dad and I head to Walmart because he needed to get something for his car, and I was looking for some multivitamins and nutritional shakes or whatever. We gather up what we need and head to the checkout line. We didn't have much, literally carrying things in our hands. Well, he was. I had my stuff in my walker, but it still wasn't much. 5 of our things in total combined. Surprisingly, the checkout line we were at wasn't full, as one would normally expect, and we were only third in line before we were next. There's a few closed and the furthest ones away didn't have many people either, or the self-checkout lanes were basically empty. There was another cashier next to our lane but was closed, as she was about to go on break. That's when Old Fart comes in. Old Fart comes around with his cart full of whatever and makes his way to the now closed cashier, to which she explains that she was bagging up her last customer and the lane was closed. Old Fart grumbles and mumbles about the lines being too long, but they weren't though, and after looking around to see the other lanes, gets behind me instead. Now, the cashier at our lane was busy making small talk with her coworker, not really paying attention to the customer waiting for the transaction to finish, as they had swiped their card to pay. Old Fart pipes up that he hopes they're having a nice conversation, but not loud enough for the cashier to hear him, but no one really pays attention to him. He sighs loudly, then proceeds to step next to me and asks, "Hey, you mind letting me go ahead? I'm in a bit of a rush." Again, he has a full cart, whereas my dad and I only have 5 or so things. I respond, "Sorry, but so are we, and we don't have a lot of stuff. We won't be long." Old Fart decides this isn't an acceptable answer and mumbles, "Duck," as he steps back behind me. Cashier finally finishes with customer up front, 1 more to go, and now my dad and I are second in line. As we slowly inch forward, Old Fart pushed his cart forward and hits the back of my legs and shouting, "Move, hurry up. As it's somehow my fault it's taking so long?" As mentioned before, I had fallen and was still pretty hurt, so I let out a yelp, and my dad instantly spun around in a panic, as did the cashier and customer in front of us. I turn and glare at Old Fart and his face is turning a shade of red with an angry scowl. Dad yells out, "Hey, the hell's your problem, man? What the duck?" People notice what's going on and put 2 and 2 together. Cashier says, "Sir, if you can't calm down and wait, and causing a disturbance, I'll call security and have you escorted out." Old Fart turns and shoves his cart to the side and steps out of line. "You all take too long anyway," and walks away instead, thinking he's won. Only for us to see him come back for his cart and get in a different, and longer, line as we were leaving the store. What a ride, sheesh. The next story is titled Am I the A-hole for refusing to buy a house for my sister and her family? Not the a-hole. I'm going to give some background info for my problem to make sense. I'm Southeast Asian and we immigrated to the US decades ago. My siblings and I were born in the old country while our youngest sister was born in the States. Growing up, our parents were the typical Asian parents in that they pushed us to be educated and into high-earning careers whether we wanted to or not. People can argue all day long about this, but the reality is that today, almost all of my siblings and I are high earners. We're doctors, attorneys, or dentists, and we married partners with equivalent careers. That is except for our youngest sister. She was always a rebel and didn't listen to our parents. She wanted to be a teacher, but our parents strongly disagreed. They even tried to bribe her into something else, but in the end, she became a teacher. When my grandparents were still alive and retired, they lived with my uncle and his family. All of their children chipped in money to buy a larger house than what my uncle had at the time and renovated the house to accommodate my grandparents' less mobile lifestyle. Their children also chipped in to hire a full-time caretaker for my grandparents and cover some of the cost of food. This is where our problem starts. My parents are retiring early while they're still active and able to enjoy life. Most of us agree that our parents should sell their house and use that money to enjoy their retirement. Our eldest brother already owns a large house and is welcoming our parents to live with him and his family. He's a surgeon and wife are a doctor, so they don't need our money to help support our parents. Instead, the rest of us will pitch in to give our parents a monthly income. Our youngest sister disagrees with the entire plan. She and her husband are both teachers living in an expensive city, so they can't afford to buy a house and have been renting for the last decade. She's pushing for our parents to live with her and for us to purchase a house for our parents just like the aunts and uncles did for our grandparents. Over Thanksgiving, she and her husband brought it up again. I was tired of it, so I told them that we're not buying them a house, and even if we did, they couldn't afford to pay the utilities and property tax. She called me an elitist and stormed out. All of my siblings agree with me, but my parents have a soft spot for her. They're beginning to try to talk us into her plan and even floated the idea of giving her the money from their house sale so that she can buy a house. Our eldest brother's words carry a lot of weight, so he told them no. She's taken to social media to shame us, and we're getting pushbacks from some family members. I steadfastly refuse to budge, but my mom is crying about it, and that's making me feel bad. Am I the a-hole? Comment said your sister is living in a bucket of her own life decisions. The path to financial freedom for her is not everyone else gives me money, it's figure it out yourself. Not the a-hole. If you went with her plan, your parents would be living in an expensive city with people who can't afford the house they live in. It's a worse situation for your parents than they have now. Another comment said not the a-hole. She made her choices and now she has to live with the consequences. No one owes her a house, not you, your other siblings, or your parents. It's really gross that the reason she wants your parents to move in with her is so she can get a free house out of the deal. Makes it look like she doesn't actually care about your parents at all and is just in it for what she can get out of it for herself and hubby. How long would it be before they claim they can't take care of parents anymore and wants them out? The next story is titled You Tormented My Sister, so say goodbye to God. My sister, S, shares an apartment with her best friend, R, in a different state from me. They've lived together since they graduated from the same college, about 5 or 6 years ago now, and R's been around our family for so long, we jokingly refer to her as our parents' third child. Things have been going great for them. There's the odd hiccup or two between their personalities, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Both of them are currently working and going to grad school in their city. That is, up until a few months ago when R met her boyfriend, A, for a-hole. He was another student at their university, studying to be a doctor maybe? I can't remember. I don't know how they met, but according to S, they hit it off quickly. R was head over heels for him, since he ticked all her boxes, especially the one where he made her feel helpful and needed. You see, A was a manipulator. He would sweet-talk R into never telling him no, helping him with money, being his personal Uber driver, and generally being subservient to him. Sadly, R went along with it because, like I said, he made her feel needed because she's a genuinely kind person who loves helping others. A and S did not get along. S is very self-confident and strong-willed, and I hated it. It got to the point where they couldn't stand to be in the same room as each other. If I came over to their apartment, S left simply to keep the peace. If they did have to interact with each other, A would go out of his way to start arguments so he could act like the wounded party in front of R when S was gone. He would cry to R about how horrible S was to him, how toxic and manipulative she was. He was becoming more and more overtly abusive towards R. He would throw fits and complain every time R wanted to do something he didn't like or go see someone he didn't want her to see. He would demand she change her plans to suit him at the last minute, then berate her when she made them late. He'd break up with her repeatedly, then convince her to come back. He always blamed the breakups on S, and R was beginning to believe him. They were fighting more often and more intensely than before, R often throwing the same hurtful insults at S that A was feeding her. Their friendship, which was years old and rock solid, was beginning to crumble. The stress of it was really beginning to get to S, to the point where my parents and I were making plans to get her out of the situation. Fast forward several months to now, when things seem to be returning to normal. R's family sat her down and talked to her about all the red flags we've all been seeing, and things have apparently ended between R and A for good. S and R seem to be working on mending their friendship. I have a subscription to HBO Max that I pay for and share with S and our parents. Lately, I've noticed someone has been watching Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon a lot on my profile. I was confused, since I don't watch either show, but figured it was S, so I'd forgotten about it. A few days ago, I got a text from S, asking about my HBO account. It turned out that somehow R had gotten hold of the password for my HBO login and gave it to A without my knowledge or permission. S was pissed, especially since R had accidentally mentioned it in passing and had clearly not intended to tell her about this and told me as soon as she heard. I can't do much to A. I'd happily square up as payback for the months of turmoil he's put my sister through, even though I'll probably never have the chance. However, I took a great deal of petty pleasure in changing the password to the account and force logging out every device that had ever connected to it. Good luck finishing Got and Hod now, a-hole. The next story is titled My Girlfriend is So Disappointed in You. Get to work tonight and faced with an angry man and his girlfriend cowering behind him. Apparently I upset her. Okay, could happen. He yells at me that I walked into the room on her in the shower. I start to explain I literally just walked in the door 30 seconds ago and the only 2 people staff are standing here. Both females, neither has gone up according to them. I apologized that she was scared and promised to look at the cameras. She was shaking her head behind him, which made me suspicious. He said, "No, I am calling the cops." She spoke up saying, "Don't do that, it was just a mistake, I am sure." He threatened if I go near the room he will hit me. Well, just looked at the cameras. Only male who went in room other than boyfriend was a guy next door and she can be seen letting him in. The same guy came out of the room just as the couple got in the lift to come down and complain. Thus guy demands to see vision in the morning. Oh, the room next that the other guy came out of was OTA booked and is from same city, very close in address. Notes on booking show celebrating our big day. 2 lots of surnames in other rooms with same last names as this room. Might not be a wedding tomorrow. Ops, she may have a secret friend. Joys of Night Auditor. The next story is titled Karma Baby. I work for a holiday let company. Had a call a week before a guest was due to arrive that she wanted a early check-in. Advised her it was a definite no as the house was a changeover. These holiday houses are massive and can take over 4 hours to clean. Departure time 10:30 a.m. Check-in 3 p.m. All week I continually receive a phone call from her. My answer was always very sorry, but nothing has changed. The property is a changeover and we have to clean. The day of check-in, and lo and behold, I get a call from the cleaners at 12 p.m. panicking, saying the guest has arrived and told them she has an early check-in. I told them she is lying and no way is she to get in early. She has been told repeatedly that she can't. Just keep cleaning and tell her to come back at 3 p.m. Anyway, the entitled guest sits in her car in the driveway for 2 hours and refuses to move. The cleaners finish at 2:45 p.m. and are leaving the property. The guest pushes her way in and her young kids run through the front door. The floors are still wet and one of the kids slips over and smashes their head on the floor. I of course receive an angry phone call about this as it's all our fault. I calmly explain that it's not 3 p.m. yet. Why are you entering the property early when I have repeatedly told you not to? If you had checked in at 3 p.m. the floor should have been dry and no one would have been hurt. She had no comeback for this, said hope you enjoy your stay. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.